Welcome to Awakening Warriors. We talk about life, love, lessons, and learning. We talk about a lot about like learning and life and love, life, love, lessons, and learning. So like we talk about
We
all like
always
that.
point out our lessons.
Yeah, life, love, lessons, and learning. But anyways, it's been a minute, but here we are. Um, let's get balls deep into this right away.
Okay, so topic is identity. So this is
What is identity to you, Andrea?
hold on. So this has been something that's been on your mind for a little while now. So I think right, that's like why you were interested in
Yeah, I think it's like a
reaching the topic.
fucking secret to life. One
What is an
secret.
identity, Montana?
I already asked you. Fuck you.
Okay, let me think about this. So an identity is we can have multiple
Yeah, you got multiple personalities.
personalities. Um, but it's like a way of viewing yourself that then informs the choices that you make, the way that you behave.
That's your personal identity, yeah. So your personal identity is like, yeah, your habits, your thoughts, um, your behaviors. That's what creates your identity. So, obviously you have your personal identity, how you see yourself, and then obviously there's an identity of how other people see you. You can't you can manipulate, but you can't necessarily control how other people see you.
Right.
You
Especially because
can
people are seeing you through their own biases
lens.
and experiences and yeah.
Yeah. So you might do one thing, and one person might think you're so wonderful, but the other person sees the same exact event, but they see it from their own personal experiences and perspectives. So then they think you're the worst person ever. So you can't worry about your identity of how your external identity essentially. You have to worry about your internal and personal identity and who you want to become. So a long time ago. One of my coaches, he expressed like, for instance, if you wanted to, he was walking down the beach, he saw this massive uh, mansion, and he said, who do I have to become in order to have that mansion? It's like a $10 million mansion or whatever, So like, if you think of the man that owns that, who is that man? Like, what makes him tick?
What does he do?
Yeah.
How does he eat? What
What
does
does he
he
do in the
drive?
morning? How does he treat his wife, et cetera, et cetera. So, I was like, oh, okay, cool. That was a very profound concept at that point in my life. And so, I've thought about it over the past couple of years, probably, countless times. And then I hired a new coach, and he talked about personal identity, like, who you are. And so when I originally thought about the first concept of who do you have to become, I thought about me standing here and me walking to that into that person's identity. So like there's another man over on the other side, in front of me, maybe like 1,000 feet ahead or whatever it is, like, and that's where I had to become. Like it was almost like an external thing. Whereas now, the way I think about identity is it's an internal thing, obviously, but it's more so how I see myself and how, who I am as an individual. So, like for me, at this point in my life, a lot of my life is being uh influenced by who I want to become as far as my identity. So because I don't know, that's what life is all about, is the evolution of identity, in my personal opinion. At this point in my life, at least, who's to say if I'll have the same philosophy in 10 years, but my current life philosophy is like, who the fuck can I become? So, like, and we'll jump back, but, and we'll even talk about, because, like, the concept of personal development, like,
Mm-hmm.
that's literally personal development. You're developing yourself, you're changing your identity. So that's
Right.
why, and then, like, and I never made all those dots connect until just, within the past couple months, I think. And I don't even know if maybe even right now, maybe I just have a fucking epiphany, probably.
Well, and yeah, I think like the identity piece for me like makes things a little bit more specific because in general, like if I go back 5, 10, 15 years, I know that I've changed. There's this overarching, like, I know I'm a different person. But like the identity pieces makes me more think about like how specifically have I felt? Like what identities did I wear then or have then? Because I almost think it's not like a mask, but like it changes. And so like what identities or what did I identify with then versus what do I identify with now and how has that changed? Because sometimes I think for me personally, I have this like, I'm different, which is true, but how different am I? Like that identity, how
Identify.
far have I shifted from different versions of myself? Have I really shifted as far as I think I have? You know?
Identifies certain characteristics and behaviors, probably, Like, oh, what are they fucking called? Key measuring points? Fuck. Oh, I can't think of the word. It's a concept that Mike was actually talking about. Um, essentially, they're key measuring points to know whether your business is expanding or contracting. But you can obviously take those key measuring points and adapt them in any area of life. So like KEMs, is that what it is?
Oh, keys, I thought, right? KEYS?
I can't remember what the abbreviation stood for and everything. I don't think. I think it was like KME, KEM,
I
something
wonder
like
if I
that.
have it in one of my notes.
Any fucking business individual could tell you, probably what they mean. But obviously, you
Oh,
just
KP?
KPIs.
That sounds closer.
Yeah,
'Cause him and Aaron were talking about it, right? And you like
yeah,
have your team do the KPIs every.
yeah.
Is it
So
KPI?
often, it might
Anyway.
be key practicing index. I don't fucking know.
Anywho.
Well, there's measuring points. So like what you're talking about is like if you sat down and you said like how I grew or whatever else, I grew from here to here in this particular bucket, and in this aspect I grew from here to here, and I have more of a tolerance for this and blah blah blah. Like
Because even like there's certain identity, and I don't know if it's identities or, but like the way that I see and value family has changed, but there's still some parts about it that are the same.
those are the deep attachments.
Is that
So
different
I
than an
think I
identity?
think I think consciously you have changed, but subconsciously you have not changed as much as you think you have, because like obviously those are the harder things to change, and that's what you really want to change. You want to change your subconscious mind, because that's really where you hold your identity. Your
Right.
identity is held in your subconscious mind. So from 0 to 7 is approximately when your like identity is formed. That's like when your your brain is being molded and you're being
Because
influenced
it's such a
at the
sponge. It's taking in
yeah.
all the stuff. There's no like gatekeeper at that point. So your parents and your relatives and all of that like have such an influence in those years.
So, for instance, if your family, which you have a Hispanic family, there was a lot of like value around family, good, bad, fucking ugly, whatever, it
Right, and
doesn't
I was gonna
matter.
say that too. Like, I'm not saying that I devalue family all of a sudden, but I'm things have just shifted. But yeah, I mean, especially when we first got together, because we would have like so and so's cousin's girlfriend's baby shower, and for you, you were like, why? Like, why are you even going to that? Why are you spending time? But like for my Hispanic family, they value that extended family and all of everybody showing up, and that's just how they roll.
Yeah. And I look at things based on ROI, like return on investment. Like, is this,
Always, still to this day.
yeah, but it's a good way of looking at things. Obviously, there's other factors also, like,
But the
people's,
return for you and for me, like I could see a return on something for you that makes absolutely no sense. Like that doesn't even matter to me. But for me, that would be a return on my investment.
yeah, but
But again, I mean,
we
like
won't get
we're
into that conversation right now,
kidding.
because I would probably make you.
But again, that could come from the deep attachment
Yeah, I agree.
stuff.
Yeah,
Like, but
yeah,
at this point, whatever that motivation is, like the return is
You
still.
think there's an ROI.
Anyway, save that
Um,
one for another time.
but
Identity.
so anyways, yeah. So your parents are your biggest influence in your life, specifically in the first like 7 years. Um, and so then you absorb their traumas, their identity, and so on and so forth. Like if dad's overweight, good chance you're going to be overweight. If mom's a certain way or acts as
Screams when she is mad every single time. She doesn't
yeah,
know how to handle her
that's
emotions.
that's how you're going to respond. So so because you're especially you could even go in with the tribe mentality and think about how you do that in order to fit in so then you're protected essentially
Right. It's
because of
safer because you fit in with the norm.
yeah, exactly. But we won't get into that right now. I mean, we
But that's
can.
partially why your
That's
identity forms that way. Because again, you don't have a gatekeeper in your own brain to be like, oh, that makes zero
that's
sense.
just what Annie Elliott was talking about this morning. And fucking whatever notes, because I've got this other concept that I'm willing to run with, and like the gatekeeper of your mind was one of them. It was like what he talked about. Um, but anyways, yeah,
But then also to like, it's just safer to follow these people.
yeah,
Like, even if it's terrible, which again, you don't
and
have that
that's
knowledge at that point in time.
and
But
that kind of brings you into social contracts too. Like I act this way, you're supposed to act this way. And that's like an
right.
identity. I think I catch a lot of flack because I don't go with the social norm. Like I had somebody tell me that I needed to be at the wedding. I needed to be there. I'm like, I don't need to do shit. I was like, I don't give a fuck what you think. I'm like, it doesn't matter what you think. This is my life. This is my decision. This is my time. This is my money. Like, just because you think I should be there doesn't mean I should be there. So, like, people will try to and this brings me to the next topic, forced identity. Like they'll try to
Right.
force you to be this way because your family's trying to hold you to this standard or whatever it is. Um, and so then, obvious. So that's our first concept is forced identity.
Part of that, because we talked about this, is like work, things like that. Like there's a
Yeah,
sense of like forced in the sense that you are going to work, you're spending time there. Like that is
yeah.
a part, like you're making a choice in working there, but there's still a forced aspect to it.
Yeah, so you'll go there and they expect you to act a certain way, especially if like if you're overweight or something and you decide like, oh, I'm gonna eat a salad today, people will like try to drag you down.
Well, a big
Sam and I talk about this all the time. Like I think he has more of an attachment to it than I know he has more of an attachment than I do
because
because
did you
I
know that's absolutely true?
yes, 100%.
Ooh, we can do some work around this, some Byron Katie stuff,
Um,
because you can't know that. You're not in his head. But
so
anyway,
based off of his reaction and stuff and how
probably a good
often
assumption. I'm not saying you're wrong.
he brings it up and stuff. Like for instance, people will give you shit for making healthier choices and stuff like
But even
that
if
and
they like
being
the drinking one, like if people are like, no, I'm not gonna have a beer or whatever, then oh come on, what the heck? Like there's
yeah.
this.
Yeah, which I find it interesting. I've said it numerous times before. Like I don't have a problem with people asking me why I don't want to drink or something, which people don't normally ask me that even when I decide I don't want to drink. I'm more than open to do that. Like I'll even explain. I'm like, nah, I'm not really drinking today. I'm not really in the mood, or no, I'm doing 75 hard, or whatever else. I'm not a fucking pussy that has to be like, what is it? Fucking fuck, not egotistical, but you're like sensitive about your things. Like, I'm planting my flag here, and this is what I'm doing. I don't have to worry about your criticism. You know what I mean? I think it's funny when people are like, "Oh, don't ask me why I'm not drinking." I'm like, that's just a common question, I guess. Like, it's just conversation. Because I'll ask people like, "Oh, you're not drinking?" I'm like, "Yeah." Are you like, are you doing 75 hard? Are you fucking like getting off the
Partially get it in
wagon?
the sense. I don't know. But
It's a
again,
sensitive
different.
topic. That's why they haven't come to terms with why they're
You
doing it.
know though, if somebody's pregnant and they don't want to tell anybody because it's none of anybody
We've
else's
experienced that. Fucking
business,
sober September or whatever it was. Like, okay, fine. Well, hey, they made a fucking
They're lying to people now instead.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Fucking, but they're lying, like, which is still another thing. But I can also, that's, they're withholding for a purpose. Maybe they're not very far. Like, I don't understand it because if as soon as
I think
like
we're
I'm
getting off
pregnant,
topic.
for sure. But hold on, let me.
Because you're pregnant?
Yeah,
What?
yeah. You haven't heard that I can show you a picture of the pregnant man. There's little Nas. He's pregnant now. But anyways, the point is, like,
Forced identity.
yeah. Let's get back
People
to
want to
forcing
try to force you into a mold, into a
and
box.
keep you there, even if that was your original identity. They don't want you to change your identity, you know. So like, forced identity just between like people trying to hold you there, and then forced identity by the fact that like that's just how it works because this is how we are currently operating in that sense. So
And so then the other side of that is chosen.
the other side of that is chosen identity. Yeah. So
So
like
making
so like,
intentional choices.
yeah. So like even my wrestling, I was almost forced into it to a certain degree because I wanted to quit like really fast into it. I didn't want to wrestle.
That just made me
And
think
then
about.
my mom forced me to wrestle for like, she's like, well, like literally a week after I started, I was like, yeah, I don't really like it. I don't like, she's like, too bad you already started. Like, I'm like, I thought we were just trying this. And
That's
we're
probably how
fucking
she got you to do
probably,
it.
yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And then, but I'm thankful for that forced identity because it taught me a skill. It taught me, toughness. It was just, it got me into athletic, or it got me further into athletics. So there's obviously a lot of good to it. Like I wouldn't take it back, but that was a forced identity situation.
That just
And
made
that
me.
we could also get to children, which I'm sure it's on the list,
Well,
but
hold on a second.
I
I'm gonna go
know.
back in time. That just made me think about track because my identity around that was that like I can win without even really trying. So I like never really tried during track.
And you won,
Yeah,
usually. Yeah.
yeah.
That's an identity thing.
Like that's
So
one of them. Like I don't regret because whatever. But like had I actually put effort and tried and cared, I probably would have been really freaking good because I was pretty
same.
good without trying. I would like skip laps and during warm up. Like
After my shoulder surgery, after I didn't run and practice for like literally close to 2 years, I got a 56, and they had me, and I was pissed. I was irritated that they even put me in the on the B team, like the sophomore or whatever for that thing. And then they put me in state, but I was like, "Fuck you! I'm gonna go camping with these girls," and I just skipped state. And then
wow,
Grant,
I didn't know that story, but what a
Grant,
weenie.
Grant went to Caleb, who was my backup and this fucking Caleb was like stuffing, just pounding McDonald's and stuff. And he's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he was all pissed. Caleb told me that story, but I wasn't there. I wasn't on the bus that day because I didn't go to state. I was like, "Fuck you guys, assholes! I'd rather go hang out with these chicks." So, it was like Labor Day weekend or something. I can't remember. Not Labor Day. Memorial
Yeah, I think
Memorial Day
States is
weekend.
June. Late
Yeah,
June, something like that.
but anyways. Um, so yeah, you have your chosen identity, but that was a choice. You chose, and something probably influenced you there. You like probably ran one race without putting a whole lot of effort, and you're like, oh wow, I did pretty good. Like I'm kind of fast, and then you're like, you know what? I can win without even trying. And so
Right.
then you took that on as your identity. So a lot of it's just like belief in yourself and self confidence and you know yeah, it's identity essentially. So, how you
This
see
just
yourself.
like popped in my head, but it makes me think about like mentorship and like big friend, little friend, things like that, where you can like really impart like wisdom and belief and all these things like on these kids. Because it just made me think about like if I had, because the boys coach, I felt like cared more than my own coach did, but he wasn't my coach. So like we would sprint with him sometimes, but like he wasn't able to or whatever, chose not to, whatever. Put that like to pour into me in the way that maybe that could have like changed my path. Or my coach was more of like a cross country coach, so he would literally leave us sprinters and go run with cross country through town for miles and miles and forever and ever, and we would just be like at the track. But anyway, that just made me think about like
Yeah, which is
having
weird because like the cross country, it's usually more they need less attention usually.
yeah,
It's
it's
just
just
a
like go run for 10
yeah,
miles, see you
yeah,
in a couple hours.
yeah,
like
exactly.
well,
Yeah,
yeah, whatever.
it's not.
Anyway,
That's not even cross country. Cross country is way less than 10 miles. Isn't it like 3.2 or something like
I have no
that?
idea.
It's not very
Track
far.
is, I mean, the furthest you're going is like 2 miles, I think,
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
if that. Anyway,
But anyways, like for instance, my identity that I've always held since I was a kid was like I was an athlete, like I'm athletic, I'm in shape, like I can't ever see my identity changing from that. Like even if I were to get an injury or something, like I'd probably shift and pivot into some other, something to keep me in shape and like I don't like yeah. So there's some like massive events that can change your identity, if you were get in a car accident and get paralyzed or something like that would definitely
that'd be forced.
yeah,
And
that would
that'd
be
be
a
like
forced identity
overnight.
change. Yeah.
Like, not even overnight, like split second, and now this
Uh,
is different.
yeah, exactly. So there's definitely things that can alter your identity and
For better,
um
for worse.
yeah, for better, for worse, for sure. And you're always one decision away from a new identity. That's a crazy thing. Like you can fucking, choose to fucking go rob a bank or whatever. Um,
When it
tomorrow.
made me even think about like, and this was like personal development led, but like our reading and like think like because you identified as not a
Not
reader
reader. I was not a
at
reader.
all,
Yeah.
and
That's a
now
good
like
one.
you're a reader.
Yeah.
I mean,
Now
you've
I
been a reader, but like at the beginning, that was definitely something that you were like, I am
yeah.
not, or
Yeah.
the
I always hated reading and I probably didn't identify as a reader and probably until the past like I'd say 4 years maybe or so.
or
Maybe a
even
little
like,
longer,
and maybe
5.
this one's still kind of in development, but like my belief in my ability or my grit or whatever, because like we go back well before like 4x4x48 or any of the ultras or something like any of that. Prior to that, I didn't have any identity around like mental toughness. And so like because I've done things in my life now, like that's developing more.
Yeah. Yeah, now you're getting a shift on identity. And that was a chosen identity that you decided to shift and change. It's interesting because some identity can take years and years to change, and then other identities can be like literally an instant of a switch as far as chosen identities. Obviously forced identities too, but
Right.
like some things that are just easier to be like, okay, I'm not a coffee drinker anymore, and then boom, you
I did
just
for
slip
like
it
seven
in.
months, literally no caffeine. Just
Yeah,
made that decision, and
yeah.
that was just it.
Yep, exactly. So that, especially if you have a big enough why, you can change your identity of who you are. Like a lot of people like smoke cigarettes. You go to the doctor, you get this crazy news. You're like, oh yeah, you're gonna fucking die if you don't stop smoking cigarettes. Like, and then they're like, okay, oh shit, I'm never gonna fucking smoke again. I guess like Paul's dad like instantly stopped smoking. It was like a pack a day for a long time, and then Paul's dad was just like, he went to the hospital. Doctor said he was gonna, if he fucking kept on this track, he was gonna fucking die. So then never picked up another cigarette again. Like,
I think
damn.
dad, because when he was like fresh out of high school, started smoking, and he said he smoked regularly for 5 years, and then he said one day I just woke up and decided like I'm not doing that anymore, and he
Yeah,
just didn't.
yeah, exactly. Crazy. Um, kids. The fun thing about kids, because we talked about like how I was forced my identity was forced into being a wrestler, and so there's identities that you want to influence. So like being an athlete should be in everybody's identity, in my personal belief.
In some way, shape, or
This,
form,
yeah,
that can look like all different things.
yeah, because your body is one thing.
Movement.
Yeah, yeah, for
I guess
sure.
it doesn't even have to be athlete necessarily. If my kid
No,
just wants to go run or wants to
that's an
lift
athlete.
weights
That's an
or
athlete. An athletic. It's an athletic thing to do. You have to be athletic.
yeah,
So
I guess
that's,
that's fair because an athlete
I'm
is
not
just somebody.
expecting you to be the
An athlete is just doing something athletic.
Yeah. I'm not expecting you to be the best athlete. I just
You
want you
mean
to
even
be
if they
athletic. I want you to be able to run. I want you to be able to jump. I want you to be able to be physical, so on and so
And part
forth.
of me was even thinking like, because they wouldn't necessarily need to be on teams, but even that, like being on teams teaches you a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway,
So anyways, as you're raising kids and, granted, people can run their mouth and talk shit all they want because I don't have children at this point in my life. And, uh, like the point is you are forming that child's identity. That is literally your job as a parent is to raise and train an individual with a good identity. Now, let's say we raise two kids, one kid decides to be a piece of shit, fucking not pay his bills, whatever else. That's one person's identity. That's that kid's identity. But then you raise another one who pays their bills on time. They have kids. They always spend time with them, blah blah blah. So then I have a productive member of society. That's another identity. So the interesting thing is like, how do you get the two different identities? We can look at my mom, or yeah, not my mom, but my sister, and look at my identity versus her identity.
But
And
you still have there's still free will. There's still
oh
like
yeah,
obviously when that person's in your house as a parent, you have say. But as soon as they're out, like
yeah.
what stuck and what didn't.
But the challenge is each child is so dynamically different. One child needs this and one child needs that. And
Oh, right.
that's
Like
the
parenting isn't cookie cutter
yeah.
because every
Yeah.
kid is going to need something different
So
from
you
you.
need to learn to how to mold a child's identity or help them mold it because, give them choices. Like, do you
Right.
want to play basketball or do you want to play soccer? Do you want to go run
Well,
track?
that's
Do
the
you want to
thing.
play football?
Like when they're younger, you're like making those choices, and obviously they get to a point where they can make their choices too. But you have a lot more hands on, and then as they get older, you want to hope that you've instilled the tools for them to be able to start building their own identity.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, give them the tools and the capabilities to choose their own identity. Because you want them to choose. Because a lot of parents, and mentioned this when we were talking earlier, well, they want to force their kids to into an identity. Like, especially like parents that want to live vicariously through their fucking child or something. Like, oh, I fucking snapped my Achilles, so I never made it to the pro football and blah blah blah. So now,
Make it do
yeah, I'm
football.
gonna make my kid do football. Maybe he doesn't want to fucking do football. Maybe he wants to do soccer. Like whatever, as long as my only thing is like making sure that kid has an athletic identity. I don't give a fuck whether he's doing basketball or wrestling. Like, would I prefer him to see wrestling?
Can you say you don't?
Do I prefer? Yes, 100% do wrestling. But I'm not going.
Right.
If they show
You
more
let them make
interest or
that
talent,
choice.
that's
Yeah.
their choice. Whereas a lot of parents will try to force their child into identity, and I don't know. It's so interesting. They just parents think that they're their children. That you're my child, so you have to do what I say, and you have to do it this way, and I know what's best for you. And blah blah blah. Like you don't know fucking shit. Like obviously you're there to protect, nurture, and guide, but you want the children, to be able to become a self-sufficient, they can take care of themselves as a fucking grown adult because you don't want to cripple them into the point where, they're incapable of making decisions. Like you were very indecision, like you had a lot of indecision in your life. There was a lot
I
of
still
uncertainty.
love decisions,
Yeah,
but
there's a lot
I
of
welcome them
uncertainty.
more than I used to.
I agree. But but because of your particular childhood, that became part of your identity because you never had to make decisions. So that
Right.
was just a
I didn't have to
natural
try
thing.
hard, didn't have to make decisions. I had lots of identities around not having to do the things.
Yeah,
And so then having to do the things as I got older, when I no longer had somebody to make that decision for me or to do the thing for me, it was very difficult.
yeah.
Because
But
I didn't have
now,
the tools to be able to do that.
but now, as you grew up, you've chosen to become somebody else because
That wasn't
decided that,
serving me.
yeah, it doesn't serve you. So, like, and that's the point. Like you just constantly want to grow your identity.
Yeah, and I was saying that brings me back to what we were talking about too, in the sense that like there are people, and I don't know if I believe that everybody on the planet is meant to evolve. Because I think that there's also like what are they called?
Autistic?
No, the like NPC players, whatever they're called in Earth. Like they're just. I think that
Yeah.
some people are just meant to. But anyway, the
I
point
don't
is,
I don't believe that.
I don't literally think that they're like fake people. But I don't know. That's the thing too. Like maybe because I also maybe partially believe that like we all are here to grow and
I
like
think we're
evolve.
all, yeah, well, that's what I believe. I think we're all souls. If you're even animals and bugs and everything else, like I believe we're all souls and we're here to evolve and grow and develop.
But not everybody does.
Not
Like
everybody
there
does,
are
no.
people that are the same throughout, and also wear that as an identity. That like they're still at this job and they still have this friend and they still, and I guess they think that that works for them. But again, if the point is growth and
I always,
evolution and
yeah, I always find it so funny and interesting when people brag about their, fucking 30-year friendships and stuff.
Which
because I'm like that probably means you didn't grow. Like, granted, there are other
I was
things
gonna say, like, I do
like
think
for
that
instance,
some friendships like that can be valid, and like they are both growing and learning. It's just
I think my longest friendship right now at this point is probably Ben, and that was probably I don't know 2014, 2015. It was right around when we bought our house. I'd say 2014, 2015 is when I met Ben. So it's about, we're going on, we'll say 9 years approximately.
Cassie's probably mine, but even that one, like that friendship has shifted a lot since even
Yeah.
before we moved, but way more since we moved.
And I got nothing against Ben. And I hope we're continue to be friends and grow and everything else. But I also understand that if I were to, or he were to, exceedingly like take off, like we're probably not
Like
going
it's
to be
okay to
friends.
outgrow people.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And who knows? I might catch up or he might catch up or whatever.
Right,
Like it's fine. That's just like that's how friendship works. That's how relationship works,
right.
which is why marriages are the toughest because when your identity starts to change, which I think most women don't even know the identity of their man. I
The
truly
true
believe that. The
identity.
true identity, the fucking balls out on the fucking table, like this is who I
Yeah,
am. These are my impulsive thoughts. This is what I want in bed. This is what I thought last night. This is what I did last night.
yeah.
Like most women, and I think women are more open to that than men are because men are insecure and they feel like they're going to be rejected or ashamed or like belittled, for the thoughts that they have, especially with women.
Do you think if these women aren't aware, do you think it's because the guys aren't either?
What do you mean? The guys know their thoughts. They're just too afraid to say them.
But what's the
Like
difference between
you've heard some
not
fucking
knowing?
crazy shit that I thought.
What is the difference between just lying? Because essentially, that's what if he's not
It's not.
telling her
It's
what he did
withholding.
last night or what like is that the same as not knowing somebody's? Well, yeah, I guess you can't have one without the other.
There's
Like if
no
you truly know somebody's identity, then there is none of that lying part.
Yeah. And you can even, oh yeah, I mean, you can truly know their identity and then just turn a blind eye too. I mean, maybe you just see the patterns and the things that that individual does, but you're like, like you just turn your eye and like women specifically, I'm thinking they'll just turn their eye and they're like, oh, he won't do that again. Like, oh, he'll change, like shit like that. Like you can see the identity. He doesn't express his identity of actually who he
Right.
is. He doesn't lay it all out on the table, but the women would, obviously know.
That was another one I thought of earlier when you were talking. Like that's an identity for you of like being in
Raw
a
and honest.
healthy, yeah, open,
Yeah. I
honest
say what I
marriage.
think. I want it all laid out. Like if I think about fucking throwing a child into a fucking crocodile thing just because I see like that's a connection I made. He popped in my head.
Recently, and I said something new. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I feel like you," because as that kid walked by, I just imagined like shoving her or something. I don't know what it was, but I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah, 'cause I'm just like, and then my mind like continues with that. Like there's no cameras around here. But who the fuck would like? Would they know? The kid comes in, he saw the crocodile.
Now you're wait, was anyway.
Those are like things that I pop in my head, and like most dudes would be like, they don't have the fucking balls. Because I told you right then and there, I was like, it just popped in my head. Fucking- there's no secret here. Like fucking here it is. Lay it all out. Get naked and be raw. Like that's the way I think. And
That's you
but now you know
identify
my
that way.
identity. What's that?
But you identify as somebody who's open and honest. Not a
I
lot
do.
of
I
people
did.
probably do,
Yeah,
or they think that they are.
yeah, yeah. And that's part of my identity is like. Which we all lie, but I always tell the truth. Like I always tell you what I'm thinking. I never beat around the bush. That's part of my identity is I want you to, I want you to know. Like I don't want to fuck around and pretend like this is okay and really in my back of my mind I'm like, ugh. Like fuck that. Like there is no like you're gonna know whether I like it or whether I don't like it or whether it's a good choice or bad choice right right then and there. And I'm like trying to I'm depending on the person, I'm like, if I care about their feelings or not, I'll try to like, you know, edge it off a little bit, but it's still pretty directly to the point. Like I might just say it in a softer tone. you're fucking retarded, you
Hey,
know. But I'm not gonna be, like I'm not gonna be around the bush and be like, I think you should rethink that choice and reevaluate your life. And no, I'm just like, I think you're kind of retarded. But yeah. Anyways, what were some of the other things? Fucking identity, like identity, because a lot of people, like I look at a lot of my family and I just look, I can look at pictures, like of my family, now versus 20 years ago or whatever, and you can see whether their identity expanded or contracted or stay, or because you're never really staying the same. There's always, you're either expanding or contracting. That's how it works.
growing your dying.
Yeah, there's no stagnant, you know. What some of the other ones?
Just own evolution of identity, social contracts, because we didn't really, well, we talked about that a little bit, and then ultra. Otherwise, we did them all already.
Yeah. Um, so one thing was my identity, my personal identity. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and like he decided, fuck, he was a big boy. He was a big fat motherfucker, and he decided all of a sudden that I don't even know when. I don't know the story behind it or anything, but he decided to run. He's like, I decided to start running, and that's what he is. And he's running way faster than me, and he's still heavier than me, and he would probably whoop my ass in a race. And so we're talking on the phone before I did my ultra, and I'm like, bro, I just fucking with when I went into the ultra training, I was like, man, I hate running. I'm not a runner. I don't like to run, and all these like stories I'm telling myself. That was my identity. So then, I don't know, I'm probably towards the end of my training, and I'm talking to Matt, and he says, dude, you're an ultra runner. And I'm like, yeah, not really though. And it's almost, and even that's an identity to an extent, because I almost didn't want to take on that identity because I'm more of a badass if I'm not an ultra runner. But I did an ultra, right?
You're like fourth, whatever.
Yeah,
fifth.
yeah, it's like my fourth ultra, and I'm like, I'm still thinking. I literally, genuinely, truly believe that. I'm going through my whole training, 5 months of training. Every day I get up and I'm like, fuck, I need running. Fuck, I gotta run. I'm not. Fuck, and they're just telling me. I'm telling myself these stories over and over and over again. And he's like, bro, you're a runner. And I'm like,
Or Chris
you're an
saying something to
ultra
you.
runner.
Chris
Chris who?
from yoga. Because
Oh,
you'd always like, yeah, I'm not really a runner though. And I feel like I remember her being like, well, yeah, you are. Like, you're
yeah.
running, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah, but she had very little influence,
Well,
I
yeah, I'm
think.
not saying that it
Yeah.
made you have any
Yeah.
realizations. I'm
Yeah.
just saying I think that that was also mentioned to you by somebody else.
Yeah. So anyways, Matt's like, bro, you're an ultra runner. And I'm like, yeah, not really though. And he's like, dude, how many ultras have you done? I'm like, oh, I've done like 4. And he's like, yeah, you're an ultra runner. It's like, congratulations. I'm
You're
like,
the first one.
what the fuck? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, and then he got me thinking, and I'm like, well, maybe I guess I kind of am an ultra runner. Like,
Kinda.
and so like that was an identity shift. But I went through 5 fucking months just lying to myself, and like I guarantee you, if I would have like taken on that identity, then that whole training session would have been a lot easier.
But like you said, there would have been less resistance.
There would have been way less resistance. But I'm like, that's what I'm doing it for. I'm doing it for the grit. I'm not doing it to place or, be awesome or whatever else. I'm doing it like, all right, we're going to fucking see how big of balls I really have. Like, cause I claim that I have big balls, but like, there's nothing fucking saying that you got big balls and doing something like this. Going from 0 to 105 in 5 months on a fucking shitty ass trail. Like, but then that was an identity shift. And I still don't have that I'm a runner identity yet, but I'm trying to shift it. Now I'm working on shifting it. Like now I'm like looking at Nick Bear, which he was a very helpful individual to see because of his identity. And like seeing like, dude, he's ripped as fuck and he's jacked as shit. And I'm like,
He's still fast and
and
can
he's
go
still
forever.
fast as fuck, and he's like, it's mind blowing. Like sub 3 fucking marathons. I'm like, dude, that's insane. So I'm like, because normally, like, for instance, most identities, like I'm a bodybuilder, I'm a lifter, or I'm a skinny runner, and I'm fast and I can run a really long time. There's very few individuals that have carried the identity of a hybrid athlete that can fucking like soar. What am I trying to say? Not soar, but like
Excel.
excel. There we go. Excel in two very different fucking genres of athletics. Like that's insane to me. Yeah, I can fucking squat 500 pounds and I can run a sub 3 marathon. Like that's
He's
boy.
squatting 500 pounds.
I'm sure he could.
Dang.
I'm not sure. I guess I haven't checked, but I'm sure that motherfucker could easily squat 500 pounds. Shit, I can do 300. Easy.
That's 200 more pounds. That's a lot of weight.
I bet he's pushing damn close to that if he's not pushing 500.
Even that one for me, like working out, literally fights in the beginning, like when you were going to the gym and I just did not want to. And why do you want me to change and all this stuff? Because I just
There
did
we go. We can
not.
dive deep in that.
I just did not want to go to the gym. And now, like, and granted, I wax and wane sometimes, but like overall, that is a part of who I am. There will never be a time in my life where there is like extended periods of time where I am not moving my body, lifting weights, walking, running.
What's an extended period of time?
Well, I'd say like right now, sometimes it'll go even like a couple weeks will be rough. So more than a couple weeks. Because even when that hits, I'm like, ugh, I can feel the like, I haven't been moving, I haven't been lifting, like it just feels gross. So
Yeah, dude, I've lifted for like almost 6 days in a row, I think, right now. I don't think I missed a day
and
for
this was a
six
good
days.
week
Yeah, it's a
for
damn
me.
good week. Yeah, for me too.
I was
Um,
really consistent.
so like one of the things that got me into personal development, aka identity change, which, just recently made that connection, so kudos to me.
Identity.
Identity change was Amway, and then so Amway got me into the personal development training. I'm like, wow, I can be happier and I can be richer and I can be more joyful and living with more peace and blah blah blah.
More
So
connections
yeah,
and
more connection, and I can enjoy different things and so on and so forth. So like when I got the bug essentially, and then I pushed you to have the bug because you didn't really have the bug. You were showing up, you were doing this stuff or whatever else. But again, like for instance, you were always like you said, why do you always want me to change? That would be a very common line in that period of our life. Like, why do you always want me to change? Why do you always want me to change? And so, like looking back at it, like I want you to change your identity. And you could say like, well, you go find somebody else that meets your fucking expectations. Like I instead of getting you to work out, I could have just dumped you and found somebody that, worked out right off the bat, filled all my needs. But that's where we were at. We were both developing at a very young age at that point in our life. Now, if I'm fucking 50 years old, obviously I still want to find somebody that's personal development driven, but I should probably find somebody that's like right around my level versus like this fucking person that like is doesn't know anything, which neither of us knew anything. We were starting in a very similar place.
right, just
So
different outlooks about a lot of things.
yeah,
And still
exactly.
sometimes they're different. Like
So, anyways, that's an interesting concept, just like watching us grow as an or as a marriage, because that's where a lot of either you get into a marriage and you didn't really truly know their identity. I think that's why a lot of marriages fail. Or you get into a marriage and their identities change, separate.
right. We
So,
started our identity shifting and changing and growth well before we got married,
yeah,
which was helpful.
yeah.
Very
We
helpful.
we did it in our early 20s. I think I was probably about 21, 22, and you were obviously right there too. So, um but again, like everything, like when I see people get married, they often are in this phase of they don't have truth. There's no truth really in there because when you meet somebody, you're on your best behavior, right? You're like, oh yeah, I'm this way, and I do this, and I'll cook breakfast in bed, and I'll do fucking, this or that.
You
Don't do that. Like, yeah, get out of work.
then
Okay.
about 10 years ago, 13
Oh,
years.
see, it's perfect. I am the perfect example. Thank you for
You
pointing that out.
still write me notes on the ground.
So anyways, So yeah, so that's why a lot of marriages fail is because they're not really being honest with their significant other to begin with, and then you continue. You can only continue a lie for so
Right.
long,
The
you
facade
know.
will fall.
Yeah, the facade will fall eventually. And then what do you have left at that point? You have nothing. You have fucking bitterness because they're not acting the way they used to. They're not doing the things that they used to do, and that's not necessarily the point. Like you want to grow and evolve. But if you don't have two people that are like growth
I
mindset
was just gonna
or
say, because some people
growth
do
minded
get to that crossroads and like do figure it out. But again,
yeah,
that's an intentional chosen
decision.
identity that we are going to turn into these people for ourselves and for each other.
Yeah.
Not that, yeah, a lot of people don't, but people do.
And this kind of leads into my point. Uh, Most people don't even know themselves. They don't even know their own identity, let alone, somebody else's identity. Like I didn't know my own identity when I was a young man, and you didn't know your own identity when you
I'm
were
still
a
figuring things out.
girl. So, yeah, exactly the same.
I still couldn't tell you all of it.
Yeah. So like that's another point. Like you don't even know yourself, and then you jump into a marriage or a relationship at a very young age. I don't think people should be dating until probably at least 18 minimum. In my personal opinion, I think all these like high school relationships and all the thing are just fucking stupid and they confuse people and they just fuck everything up. Like you shouldn't be fucking doing it to begin with. And obviously
Brain development. You're not in any place to be making decisions like that.
yeah, I agree. Yeah. Um, so yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to hit on was identity because I think it's going to be a huge focus in my life moving forward as it has been within the past couple months. Um, and then obviously maybe I was like obviously introduced to it by Sean, the who do you want to become, and then it was or who do you need to become to live in that
Wasn't that Ed
become
Milet?
no, that
And then
was
Sean? And then
kind of Ed
Ed
Milet.
Milet was the beach house.
No, Sean was talking about the beach house because he was on the beach. Ed Milet was talking about the standing against God and being the
I
man that
will
you could have
pull
been.
up the
I swear to God. Okay,
podcast.
let's do it. Sean's mentioned it so many times.
He's probably just made it his own story because I swear that's Ed Milet.
Yeah, nice,
Because he
positive
talks about his
Sean.
wife, and Sean doesn't do that because he don't got one. Anyway, I'll look it up.
Okay, that's fine. I don't give a fuck because I
We
already
should
know.
like I don't know, link things.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
You can do
Well,
that.
a lot of that, a lot of Sean's stuff was in the den, so then they can't really see it anyways. But you know what I mean.
Yeah,
But
but you can just
anyways,
let Ed Milet one when I find it.
yeah,
That whatever. This is not important, but it made me think about you identify as not a tech guy, like me saying like you can do that. Like we both know that you won't do that because you're not techie.
yeah. And it's funny because do you remember when we started working with David and I fucking dreaded typing out the
Typing notes,
notes?
yeah.
Jesus Christ, it was
Now you're on your
dreadful.
computer all the time.
Not all the time, but
A
it's
lot.
usually work related, like emails for
Oh yeah,
something
that
or
Facebook scroll is very work related.
that's not even considered techie, I don't think.
No, it's not. But
But
you're
like
just
now
on
I'm
even that, just your like comfortableness on
yeah, on a
computers
computer.
has
Well, I'd
evolved.
never used a computer since I didn't have to use a computer until I hit David, which was like 2020, and up until like so high school to 2020. So there were like 8 years of me never using a computer.
But you did. I think you brought this up, like the dryer or whatever. Like you did operate complex.
Yeah, but those were just computer systems. I didn't have to go anything. I just had to click this up or just this up or down. Like it wasn't like, oh, go to Excel and like create a spreadsheet or whatever. Which I still don't really. I did the Tap Hat like rent roll, but Derek gave me a spreadsheet just recently, and it's got like it does all the math for you. Like if you put in this quantity with
You'll
this
just
price,
change it
and
over
then it
there.
changes over here, and then it changes your total. So like there's like three different boxes. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm
I always
like,
have to Google
good thing.
those.
I don't even fucking see. I don't want to fuck with that. I have so much resistance towards that. Like, nah, that's not part of my identity. So, but anyways, yeah. Change your fucking identity, and hopefully your spouse wants to change their identity too. Because if you start changing, then there's a good chance that your relationship won't last. because of there's just going to be too much friction. You guys are going in opposite directions, and um, yeah. So, anything else you want to add?
Subscribe to our channel.
And do two things:
And
like us on Facebook, I guess.
yes, yeah, I don't really post anything there though anymore.
You don't even post a new episode.
Oh,
Oh, really?
I
Wow.
haven't.
Wow, it's something you need to do.
You can do it. The link is available for you at any time to
Yeah,
copy and paste on there.
but I don't have access to um the page. Yeah.
Page. Well,
What
I
about
can
her?
get you access. You're often on your laptop.
Oh
Okay.
shit. All right. My arms look huge right now.
My
It's
calf
probably because you
look
moved.
huge.
Probably because you moved it so close. Ugh. Ugh.
Okay. Thanks for being here. We already gave you the 2 action steps, so I won't
Yeah.
give you any more. So
And I won't be here next week because I'll be in Jersey
I'll be with you.
next week on Sunday.
Correct. I fly in on Saturday.
Cool. We got to spend money on our personal development, yo. Why are you such a douchebag today?
Okay.
All
Thanks
right.
for being here.
Thanks for
Catch you
joining.
next time.
See you guys.